Hello crochet crafters. Today we're going to be making this beautiful sunflower coaster, and we can use it with your favorite mug and mug warmers. But anyways, we're going to make one, and hopefully once you get one done you can do four. I'm using a size F crochet hook. You can use an EFG, that's fine. Any of those are okay. You're going to need some crafting scissors. You're going to need a needle to work your tail ends back in. I use plastic because I've hit myself too many times, but if you like a metal needle, make sure you use a thimble. I am using a sugar and cream 100% cotton. You want to use 100% cotton for all things that are going to hold something hot, like coffee or a pot, because otherwise you'll end up with burn stains on your acrylics. So make sure you use 100% cotton. I don't care what colors you use, you can pick your own. I'm using a blue, a salmon, a yellow, and a brown. And if you're making a sunflower, you have to have the brown and the yellow, but the other two colors are optional, whichever ones you would like to use. So let's get started. We're gonna go ahead and get our brown slip knotted onto our crochet hook. And we're gonna go ahead, you can either use the magic circle method or you can use the chain 2 method that I use. I actually, to make a wider middle, I'm gonna chain 3. 1, 2, 3. I may even chain 4 today, just to show you different, and that will make the middle a little bit bigger like this. If you want it nice and tight, you can chain 2. So I'm going to go ahead, and after you chain, you want to slip knot. You want to go back to the first chain you created, and then you're going to pull it through with a slip knot. Now, I'm going to do something funky. You don't have to do this. I just want you to know I've got my tail. I'm going to grab my tail and pull my tail back through because I'm lazy and I don't want to have to cut it later on or work it through with a needle. So I've worked my tail through, and I'm just pretending this is like one chain. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a half double crochet with my tail. Again, you don't have to do that. You can cut your tail afterwards. You can work it back in. I'm just showing you there's a little middle that I created here. So I'm going to do a half double crochet in the middle. And the way that you do a half double crochet in the middle is you wrap it around. Again, we're pretending this is 1, not 2 threads. You pull it through the middle of that center chain or that magic circle you created. You pull it through. And you should have 1, 2, 3 on your hook. This looks like more than 3 because, again, I'm working my little tail end through. So that counts as 1 half double crochet. I'm going to do a second half double crochet, which I've got 3 on my hook. Wrap it around, and that's 2. If you're not sure how to do a half double crochet, you wrap it around once and you pull it through the middle. You pull it back through, and you should have 3. 1, 2, 3 on there. You wrap it around and you pull it through all 3. So I have 1, 2, 3. We're going to do 12. So if you want to count 12 half double crochets in that little circle, that's my 4, 5, 6, 7. Now it looks like I'm almost full here, so there's a little trick to this. Just push it down, and that way you'll have more to work with, so you can get your other 6 in there. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now, once you've got there, you want to make sure your circle is kind of even. So if you've got more half double crochets kind of on one side of your chain, kind of even that out. And then when you get to the end right here, you want to just go ahead and slip stitch it together. So that is going to be the middle of your sunflower. Okay, so what I've done is, I worked my chain back in so I can cut that little tail off. I don't have to use it with a needle. So that takes care of the first part. And I'm going to cut it right here. I'm going to work this one back in. we're going to switch colors. So pay very close attention how I'm going to move that. It's probably a distraction. I'm going to start with my yellow color, and the way I'm going to switch colors is I'm literally just going to hook it right there, and I'm going to hold both pieces with my hand, and I'm going to pull it through, and that's a chain 1. Now my brown just came a little bit loose, so I'm going to pull my brown tight because I want that to be tight with my chain. So that's my chain 1. Again, I'm lazy, so I'm going to use this tail back into my work. So we're going to pretend, again, this is 1. I'm working my tail back in. You don't have to. You can sew it back in. So I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2. That's what I get for trying to work my tail in. I just got a kind of a straggly. 3. Again, I'm working my tail back in, so that's kind of straggly right there, but we'll deal with this. So this is going to count as a treble crochet. And if you're from a different country, treble means different things. So it's basically a triple crochet. So we're going to make 2 more triple crochets in that same stitch. So the way we're going to do it, this is going to count as a triple crochet, even though it's a chain. And we're going to wrap it around, and then I'm going to wrap it around twice. So you've got 2 of them wrapped around, and you're going to pull it through that same stitch that you just worked on and pull it back through. And you're going to do 1, 2, and you're going to pull it through 3 times. So that's a treble crochet. Let's do it. Let's do it again together. 1 wrap, 2 wrap. So it looks like you got a candy swizzle stick here. And you're going to go back through, and you're going to create a triple crochet. Now that really, that's got to be like triples. That should be count as 1 grouping. And you're going to do 11 more of those, but you're going to do them in the same stitch. So you're going to chain 2, and you're going to do another treble crochet in the next stitch next to it. And you're going to do another in the same spot. So you're going to do 3 now in the same spot. That first one was kind of funky because it's a chain, and we have to do it that way to get started. So you've got 3 in the same stitch, chain 2. 1, 2. So if you're not sure where to go next, and you're thinking you don't want to go into the same stitch, so make sure you look. You can pull at it. You're not going to hurt yourself there. You can see that that's in that stitch. So you want to make sure you go into the next stitch next to it, and you're going to do 3 in that stitch. 3, okay? So we're going to do 3 triple, wrap it like a swizzle, pull it through, and wrap it around, pull it through the first 2, wrap it around, pull it through the second 2, wrap it around, pull it through the third 2. 1, 2, 3. Wrap, pull it through the same stitch, pull it through, wrap it around 1, wrap it around 2, wrap it around 3. Swizzle, swizzle, pull it through, wrap it around 1, wrap it around 2, wrap it around 3. And then you're going to do what? Chain 2. So after each one, you're chaining 2. After each set of 3. So by the time you get done with this whole thing, you should have 3 sets of 12 because you had 12 stitches. So I'm going to do a few more of these, and then I'm going to show you what happens after the yellow. So you're going to wrap it around, make sure you're going into the next stitch, and you're doing 3 again. 3 and 3 in each stitch. This is making up, the sunflower petals. Wrap it around, 3. Swizzle, swizzle, through the same thing. Wrap it around, wrap it around, wrap it around. Now, as you're going through, I'm going to let you do this till you get to the end. And as you're going around, it might bulk up a little bit. It might look bungy, it might not look flat. Don't worry about it. When you get to the end, it's going to be flat the next round. So when you are finished with 12 sets of 3, which is like this, you're going to you're going to make sure you do those last chain 2, and then you're going to slip stitch it into that chain you created, you know, that ended up being a triple crochet, but it was a 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to slip stitch it on the top. And again, it might look like this, kind of bunchy, not flat yet, because it hasn't flattened out yet once you do the next color. So pick the color of your choice, cut it off, and once you've got that yellow done, pick your color of choice. I picked a salmon. So again, to join this, I just grab my salmon and pull it and chain 1. Now, I got to make sure the yellow in the back is nice and tight. There it is. Because if it's loose, it's going to be weird. And I am lazy, so I'm going to work my tail back in right now so that I can just cut it off. So I'm going to chain 1 with my tail. Then, in between those 3 little swizzles that you created in each stitch, you chain 2. So we're working between the chain 2. So what you're going to do as you're working between the chain 2 is you're going to do 4 single crochets in each one of those spaces. Now it looks like I've got more than a single going on there because again, I'm lazy and I'm working my tail in there. Working my tail off, haha. I know, it's supposed to be a joke. It's not very funny. So I did 4. See, 4, 4. And what do you do after you do 4? You're going to chain 1. Just chain 1. And this is how it's going to bring all those bunchy cords together. I have a little tail I didn't work out there. I have to cut that afterwards. See, it's all kind of bunchy, but once you get going, you'll see what I mean. So do a 1, 2. I don't like the way that grabbed. Sometimes cotton is hard to work with. 2, 3, and 4, chain 1. And make sure your stitches are consistent in the way they look. In other words, if you're going to make them tight, make them tight. If you're going to make them loose, make them loose. But keep your single crochet stitches consistent in the tension, because otherwise it's going to look funny. Because you'll have some that are wide and some that are not. So I'm trying to make the tension the same all the way around so that it'll be a nice even look. If you don't do that, you may have one side that's floppier than the other and one side that's looser than the other. I did 3. So go ahead and do 4 single crochets in each one of those openings. And then a chain 1, skip those, 3 swizzles. 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 1. Go in between the swizzle, swizzle, swizzle. It's just a single crochet, people. So it's just, going under there, grabbing the yarn, wrapping it around and pulling through. Chain 1, going under the open space, grabbing it, pulling it through. If you don't know how to do a single crochet, you really should go back to some of the videos or some of the online tutorials so that you can learn how to do these stitches. And then the thing about cotton yarn is when it's got a 4 pieces together or 3 pieces together of these little threads that you're looking at, sometimes I find they come unraveled and it's really hard to keep them together. And the problem with that is that if you miss a piece, it looks funny in your work and it's very, very unsightly. So if I make a mistake, I try to go back and fix it, because you want your stitches to look what? Perfect. Especially if you're making this as a gift or selling it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. You finish it up too. It's 4. 1, 2. And you can find me on Etsy at Lori's Handiwork. Or you can find me on this YouTube channel, Lori's Handiwork. And if you like my things, please, please, please subscribe. And I will try to bring you more informative, better videos. I know I'm a newbie to this, but I will try very hard to bring you educational things. Okay, make sure you chain your 1 at the end. Don't ever forget that when you're finishing your work, whatever stitch you have to finish that with that chain. So I'm going to slip stitch it and close it off and cut it off. Now, I worked that first pink tail back in, so I'm just going to fix that. But these two I have to work in with the needle. And I'm going to have to work these in with a needle because I didn't work these, I just chained them on. So we'll work those in with the needle after we're done. And what are we going to do next? The last beautiful blue trim work here. There's a little bit of a trick with this because you want to do a single crochet stitch all the way around. But remember, you chained in between, so you've got you can't forget that little chain that you did in between. So go ahead and get your blue on the same way you did before, and you're going to do a single crochet. Again, I'm lazy. I'm grabbing my tail my tail between my legs, and I'm doing a single crochet all the way around. Now, when you get to this crossover here, you go, oh, there's a single crochet here. And what you want to do is you want to work under it. If you can't find the little loop and work under it like that, I have another suggestion for you. You just work between it like that, like so. So then you go back in and you do your single crochets all the way around. And when you get to that space one that you can't grab, you just work one under and then go back to your single crochets. And you have that one that will look like that, but it won't look funny once you get it done. So I'm going to go ahead and do the single crochets all the way around. And if you want to stay with me to see how we work our tails in, you can. If you don't want to stay with me, I appreciate you joining me. And I appreciate all the likes and the support that you can give me. And I'll see you next time. But otherwise, if you want to stay with me and hang in, again, we're going to work under there like that. I just find it easier than trying to find that loop. And it creates, what it does, as long as you're consecutive with your work, it creates a nice little, just a little different stitch right there. It's the same, but it looks a little interesting. So again, I'm going to go underneath. Make sure you're consistent. Don't say to yourself, oh, I can grab that underneath that loop now, and so I'll do it this time, but I won't do it next time. Whatever you do in crocheting, you just have to make sure that you're consistent, because if you do one side different than another side, it shows. And now I'm going to show you what this looks like when we're done here. And the thing about cotton is it looks like it's not laying flat right now as I'm going through, but it will definitely lay flat because cotton is very malleable, so to speak. And again, I'm going to go under that stitch because I don't want to have to find the little loop. Gives it kind of a little interesting pattern. We're almost to the end. And again, under the loop, back through. Single crochets all the way around. There's no, you know, magic secret. But when I first started working with cotton, I hated it because it was just so different than acrylic. Oh, I'm going to work under that. So I've got that last under the loop. And back to the beginning. And what you want to do is you're just going to go into that first one you did and slip stitch. So there you go. And if you want to hang with me, we're going to go ahead and work our tails. So you cut this off. I sometimes will leave a lot of give at the end. And again, if you have a thimble and a regular needle or a big metal needle, that's fine. So when you're working your tail back in, you want to, there's something called basically working it through this way and then working it back the other way, because material can't stretch, you know, yarn can't stretch in 3 ways. So what they tell you to do is work it back this way and then work it back the same way you just came, but through a different stitch. And I'll sometimes do it 2 or 3 times. I mean, I'm kind of, again, I'm just do not want those stitches to come apart, especially if I'm selling my work online. I want to make sure that, oh, I went through the same spot. I want to make sure that people get a good product and that that's not going to come through. So you can work it through as much as you want. If you have a sewing technique and you're a seamstress, then this is going to make a lot of sense to you. But you can just work it any way you want, and we'll work it back through there. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my little straggly yarn pieces right here. So that looks really good, that side. And now I have a salmon piece and a yellow piece. You can see why I don't like to take time to work these through, because this is more time to do this. And if I can work it back into my work, it just makes sense. And we're going to do this 2. Like I said, do it at least 3 times. And now move back into the opposite direction, which you just came from, and then go back to the direction you were working. And if you're working with a finer yarn too, you want to make sure your needle's smaller. But for right now, this is an okay size needle. So I just have to make sure I had a little brown left on my tail. You never want to tie knots when you're working with crocheting, because if you tie knots, they show. And I've seen people tie knots and it does not look pretty, folks. So really, the way in crocheting is always, always, always sewing your tails back in or working them through in your work and the longer you crochet, the more of an expert you will become at working your tails in. If you saw me do it and you go, how the heck did she do that? Don't worry about that. All right, that's it. Thank you for joining me.